Good afternoon. My name is Nina Winston, and welcome to my channel, Insights and Perspectives. Today I was reading a Facebook post that was actually consistent with an audio that I had made for myself a couple of weeks ago just to be mindful of something that I had experienced. And the post was relative to ghosting. Ghosting as it relates, I'm thinking to dating, and the author wanted to share with the ladies when this happens, this is what is really going on, so you don't have to beat yourself up over it. But her her view of it was ghosting is when someone who's not interested in you will just leave the situation to avoid any perceived conflict or drama. And that on the other end, the person is thinking, well, we're all adults here. You could have just said it. Does that sound familiar? That happens a lot with women and men, wherein men they will show you who they are and what they mean through their actions. Where women, we need it said because we're going to tell you. Now, she wasn't partial to either side, but what I will say from my own opinion, that is not a practice that I would want my sons to do. I would want them to have courage enough to actually just share with the person, even if it's I don't have anything to say. I'm just not interested. I'm sorry, but at least you did it. And what happens is, even though people may not like what you said, they will respect it. So, and I think that when we do this, which seems, cowardly, just leaving a situation without just communicating with the person, because sometimes you haven't even made yourself clear. It comes out of the blue, and that's not a good thing. That's hurtful, and it does come back around. So you want to maintain respect for the other person, and you want to maintain your credibility because you never know when that's going to come back around again, or who that person is to you and who they're connected to. On the other hand, I want to talk about how we're getting these situations and how we're giving these situations. So I believe that there's nothing in your life that you have not attracted knowingly and unknowingly. I have come to believe that no, things may not be our fault, but it is our creation through our conscious and subconscious minds, but mostly subconscious when we're blindsided. So, just a quick story of how when we are the ones who's doing the ghosting or the ignoring, how we justify it because it's within our values at that time. We justify it because it suits our need at that time, and there's no reference to what the other person needs, and that's kind of how the society goes. But just be sure that when you're doing these things, that you understand how life goes, which is independent of society. There are laws, there are universal laws that we all live and are governed by, whether we know it or not. That when we do something, it's just going to come back. So this is just make sure that when you are doing this to someone, you're ready for it when it comes back to you. And what happens is it doesn't always come back in the form that you think it will. Doesn't. It may not come back in a dating situation. It may not come back in a relationship situation. It could come back in a family situation. It could come back in a career situation. You might thought an interview went really well and you don't get a call back. You may have thought you had really good rapport with a teacher, with your child's teacher. You don't get a call back when you reach out. It could come back in a myriad of ways. And what my experience was just recently that caused me to make an audio because I try to be kind of honest with myself. That's what keeps me peaceful and balanced. I had, for those of you who know me, you know, I've owned a hair salon for years. And so I had a client who, many years ago, um, great lady, great mother, really, really smart and sharp, but quite manipulative. And she evidently put a low value on my time, and she tried to manipulate my time. And that's just not something that I do. Um, and I remember I was really upset about it. And I said, well, God, if it weren't for the money, what would I do? And before I could finish, I said I wouldn't do her hair. And so I let her know I won't, I don't offer this service to you anymore. I'm not going to do your hair. And I found peace because I work for myself, and I will not be a slave to anyone, and definitely not money. So I think several years later, she contacted me, and shame on me, she did it again, but in a different form. But what I realized is that, again, she did not have a high value on me or my time. And I just don't deal with people like that. And because I don't treat people like that. And, um, and so I had to end up parting ways with her again. Now, this time, it probably wasn't as clear as it was the last time. And so about a year later, she reached out to me recently, and she called, and she texted and she called. And I just ignored her. And and I felt justified in that moment. I felt almost justified because it was a little nudge there that something wasn't quite right with me ignoring her. And it may have had just something to do with me and just how I'm made up. But I went on about my way. And a couple of maybe weeks or so later, I began to have an experience where people that I valued ignored me. And I said, And so I had to, as I do, I sit with myself and I say, okay. And these are 3 tips that I want you to remember. I sit with myself and I say, well, who would say I'm doing this to them? Or where in my life have I done this to somebody? And I guarantee you, before you finish your sentence, you will get your scenario played before you of how you created this and how you're just a mirror for whatever's, taking place with you. And the last one is if it has happened to you and you're really upset about it, ask yourself, how does it benefit me though? There's got to be a benefit. There's always a benefit. You have to look for it, and you have to keep thinking about it until you find it. But here again, those are 3 things. When you encounter something that bothers you, that you perceive someone has done something to you, they've offended you in some kind of way, just ask yourself, where am I in this? Who would say that I've done this to them? And you'll be able to neutralize your situation. Okay? So let's be sure that when we're putting things out, that we understand that it will come back, but not always in the form that we think it will. And because of this, as a result of this, I've decided no matter how tough it is, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because if I'm honest, I was really uncomfortable answering that phone and telling her, I don't want to do your hair anymore. I was uncomfortable with doing that because I didn't want to, we never like to, mainly if you're kind of a people pleaser or you care about how people feel. You don't want to hurt them no matter what. So, but at the end of the day, you do have to do it because with you not wanting to hurt them, you end up hurting yourself. And so here again, what I do now and what I purpose to practice is, if it comes my way again, say the hard thing. Have the courage because it's necessary. Thank you.